We start now. Yes. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from all the world, our attendees. That's why I'm saying good evening, good afternoon, good morning. You're welcome again to another series of webinars and interviews hosted by One Kwan Village, who always fosters and helps education and serves the sector of education. Today, we have a great guest, our honorable guest, Mr. Serge Malenfant, who is the president of Global Mural Association and an international artist and educator serving the two sacred missions of education and art in the whole world for the last 25, 30, 35 years. Mr. Serge, how are you doing? Welcome tonight.
Very fine, thank you.
Morning, depending on the timing. Yes.
No, it's early in the morning, but it's good.
Yes, yes. In some places, because we have guests from Australia, we have guests from the Middle East, from the Gulf countries, from Europe. So some people, it's in the morning, it's some people, it's by night, some it's in the afternoon. So welcome them all, and welcome you, Mr. Serge.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very honored to be able to exchange on such an important topics as art and education, especially with an international specialist as you, Mr. John.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's an honor for me, an honor all mine. Thank you, Mr. Serge. And the first questions I'm going to ask you, because as we know, we're going today discuss about the role of art in education. We are going to see why art is very, very important in education, and we're going to discuss that in detail today. So, first question, Mr. Serge, for you is the following. Do you think that there are major differences between art and science, or there are two faces of the same coin?
Yes, I would like to start maybe with a quote from engineer, physician, and former astronaut Mae Jemison, who said, "The difference between science and the art is not that they are different sides of the same coin. Science provides an understanding of the universal experience, and on the other hand, art is a universal understanding of a personal experience. So they are both part of us, a manifestation of the same thing. The arts and sciences are avatars of human creativity. Yes, they are two parts of the same thing, the brain. Two parts of the brain that acts and reacts differently to different tasks. The basic difference between art and science, art is based on imagination. It expresses a skill cultivated through practice, most often in the form of a subjective representation of knowledge. While science, on the other hand, is based on statistics. It is demonstrated most often in the form of objective acquired rules of knowledge. So science is mostly employed by the left hemisphere of the brain. It is verbal, direct, art edge, rational, analytic. Art is mostly employed by the right hemisphere of the brain, which is mostly visual, diagonal, playful, intuitive, emotional, and perceptual. Science and art are most often thought as parallel ways of learning and knowing, instead of being, as they should be, used and acknowledged as interconnected part of our brain that should be utilized to its full potential. Art and science are the yin and the yang of knowledge. We work, we learn, we play and create in so many different ways, and especially nowadays. But because of modern times and technology, science is evolving way faster than art. That causes a problem in our evolution. We are less able to adapt on an emotional level at the same speed as our technologies. And that makes us uneven in a way, in ourselves and in our civilization. So this causes less exploitation of all the parts of our brain, part of our society, part of our creativity. Because of these uneven differences, we have difficulty to adapt. So they are part of the same thing, but we are not using them in the same level of quality or same exploitation in that way. And that makes us progressing in a way without evolving in all different ways at the same time.
Can conclude that the first pillar that we can say that art is a crucial layer in education, and art is very important for education. We can consider here that the one major pillar of education, which is science in this case, is very, very important course. Science is complemented by art. If art is not there, science cannot survive. The scientists cannot create. Scientists cannot innovate. The two of them complement each other. If one of them is missing, then we have a problem. So that's why we need to make sure that we are going in parallel towards continuing the major role of art in education. Yeah.
Exactly.
My second question, Mr. Serge, is going to be, it's commonly known, as we all know, that bureaucracy is enemy number one of the missions of education. Do you agree with the notion that art plays here a major role in eliminating the bureaucratic factor within the mission of education?
Well, at least for my experiences in Canada, after many cuts in schools' arts program, we must turn back to the arts as one way to help our educational system. Many educational administrators, however, tend to be ambivalent about the purpose of including the arts, often still regarding art as a valuable subject, but not an essential subject, because art is not measurable. It is less recognized in our cybernetic world. I do believe that most administrators are well intended in their function in the educational system. The problem is that administrators and artists are talking two different languages that neither of them can really understand because of the way that our brain works. We need a translator. And for me, the translator is to have an open mind and focus on the entirety of the educational system to the unity of knowledge. I would quote Albert Einstein: intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and forgotten the gift. So art is the gift of creation. We need to find a way to convince these administrators to take part in artistic experiences and art projects, as we do as artists, and as everybody should be experiencing daily almost. But for them, just to feel more their surrounding than just rationalizing it. That's the difference in a way. Emotion comes from art, and art comes from emotion. And sometimes when we close that door, we are very cold in our reflection, rather than being we are stiff and less flexible in that way.
Yes, I agree with you 100%, Mr. Serge, because as we know, bureaucratic administrators, they think that they can measure the different variables of every student in education. You cannot measure variables because those are human beings. They're not robots, they're not machines. You cannot transfer them to memorizing machines and let them memorize and memorize. And the most important pillar of differentiation in education is called differentiation by emotion. If you don't reach their heart, you will never reach their mind. So how can you reach their heart if you're thinking of them as just machines, or let's say data people that can have data and they can store data, and the more they store it, the more they are better students. And that's why here, as you said, art plays a major role to eliminate that wall of bureaucracy between education and the different pillars of education, so that we can serve better our students to be right for today and ready for tomorrow. Another reason here that we can conclude, again, dear audience, that art is plays a crucial part for education to survive, to continue to progress. That's why my third question will be for you, Serge. As we all know nowadays, we nurture in our students the 21st century learner profile traits, because we are preparing the future. We're preparing future leaders. So how can art, in your opinion, help schools nurture the 21st century learner profile traits within their students?
Well, that's a big question. The art combines perceptual skills. It evokes an extended shift in an alternative mode of thinking, thereby increasing potential for personal growth. And one of the key principles is to offer art and science as a global set of skills. It's not just one, it's not the other, it's the both of them combined. In my personal experience, when I was a student, I felt out of place, unease of not being able to perform enough, until one art teacher saw my potential in my drawings. This teacher graded me by my efforts, for my creativity, for my participation in the art project. It gave me a sense of purpose and a sense of place in the school. And that feeling engaged me to learn new skills to improve my talents. That involvement in the arts helped me increase, after that, my other academic performances. Once I was engaged, I felt that that's what I'm here for. And I felt really in a group of artists and be able to create different things in different fields. So from art, by being engaged in the process of creativity and being recognized with my base talents, it gave me a sense of worth, and it has opened my mind to many other doors of different ways of learning. I have worked in youth centers and regional juvenile centers for many years. I have used art as an alternative creative technique of expression to help these young adults explore their emotion, boost their self-esteem, and work on their social skills. All programs within education is major, not only in the expansion of the mind, but it keeps kids off the streets, and it can keep kids out of correctional system. So our programs gives kids somewhere to express themselves if they don't have the support at home, and that's often the case. That makes a big social difference. Studies show that students in our programs are more likely to graduate than those who don't. So the art makes vivid the fact that whether words nor number exhaust what and how we feel. The limits of our language must not define the limits of our cognition. The arts helps children learn to say what they cannot say, how to reach into their inner emotional, creative, poetic capacities, to find the words to express what they deeply feel. So the arts enables us to have an experience that we cannot have from other sources. Art helps us discover the range of variety of what we're able and capable of feeling and express. In my way of working as a mural artist, in my mural way, we adapted our team and utilized the approach of mentorship and apprentice most of the time, based on the level of the skills of the apprentice and the task at hand. We did not force them to adapt to the task of learning. So that's the difference for our way of working. It is a bit like sport in the idea that it's putting the right athlete with the right set of skills in the right place. Can we evaluate skills of the athletes? Yes, we can. So we can do the same with an artist in a way. We have to see different ways rather than just statistics and numbers. Until the apprentice feels at ease with the team, until he is engaged in his work with confidence, ready to be more involved, then on his own, curiosity takes over on how to learn new skills and reach the next level of his experience, seeking a more global, emotional, and physical set of tools that can be used in all fields of life. Another quote from Pablo Picasso, every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up. The problem is that we lose that part of a simple creative along the way because we are forced to learn in a specific way, which is if you are well equipped, you can succeed. But if you don't, you are not part of the team and left on the bench, sometimes even excluded from society. So these are the things that we have to adapt, ways of learning, different ways of learning that makes a global set of skills for students, and be able to evaluate these different approach, not rather numerically or by numbers and facts about each student, and the level of more of an emotional and the research point of view of that student.
Yes, I agree with you again, 100%, Mr. Serge, because we cannot nurture the learner profile pace of the 21st century for our students. How can they become, imagine, independent learners? How can they become critical and positive thinkers? How can they become innovative problem solvers? How can they have a focused and confident mindset? How can they be inspired and communicative inquirers? How can they be self-explorers? How can they be international-minded citizens? How can they be environmental and cultural philanthropists? How can they be team spirit-driven characters? How can they be creative and knowledgeable artists? How can they be wellness and health promoters? How can they be caring adventurers if we don't use art in education so that we nurture those traits within them daily in schools? My next question, again, another reason to conclude that art is crucial for education, is important for education. Nowadays, as we all know, my fourth question, Mr. Serge, schools are focusing a lot on creativity and innovation as crucial pillar in their learning and facilitating environment. And they are facing a lot of challenges in reaching related benchmark they need to reach. In your opinion, how can art help schools to reach this essential benchmark implementing creativity and innovation in education?
That's another big question, and that's mostly part of the problem. We do know that art plays an important part in the solution. Uh, it is it is the cornerstone, and it is part of the foundation of our educational system, on which we can build the entire state of knowledge if we want. But we must recognize art as a pillar of the arts, as one of the cornerstones of these buildings. The educational system work for a percentage of students because we have been doing so for so many generations. The problem is that we have put aside those students that don't think that do think differently.
Yeah.
The ones that we do not compute this type of learning, and even after that, place them in special groups, which does not solve the situation. Because the students do not believe in themselves and still do not have a sense of place and purpose. The cause and effect of this tragic situation is that we are not engaging these students with their own set of skills, talents, and full potential. Unfortunately, for our society, many of these students lose their interest in school and drop out of school, rather than being involved and participating in the ecosystem and in our society. Art offers new ways of thinking and connects the students that have difficulty learning in the traditional analytic system of education. So we must use every tool available to engage students in their own future. Art is not a magic wand that makes everything perfect, but art can change things. It must be more included in our social toolbox if we want to make a real change in our educational system and in our society. We must evaluate the students not for the final exam, but all along its creative process, the final result, the final product. Most of our work, like life, is not about destination, it's about the journey. So that is what we remember, and that is what we really learn from. The souvenirs, things that keeps in our mind, it's not always the rules of law or the rules of education that some teachers would teach us. It is really the difference. It is by that journey that we remember facts and numbers, if we want. So we must evaluate someone by who they are and what they can become. If we don't do that, then we're back to putting people in the file and numbers and facts. And you are good because you got 50 and plus, and you're bad because you're 50 and less in your notes and the scores in school. So you have to find that all these numbers are useful, but it is not the only way to be able to grade and evaluate a student.
Yes, I agree 100%. That's another reason. That's why to say that art plays a major role and is a major source in education. And that's why we say that art is the source of creativity and innovation in schools. If we don't have art, we cannot have creativity and innovation. And that's why, in general, nowadays, we are mingling formative and summative assessments because summative assessment is not really reflecting for us if the student really acquired the knowledge and the skills that he needs to survive, and not only to survive, to be a leader for tomorrow, or he just got that information and after 1 or 2 weeks he will forget everything. So the grading system too is very important, as you said, and that here again art plays a major role. And that's why I will go now to my first question. A lot of pedagogical leaders worldwide agree that art is the mother of all sciences. Do you think that is really a fact in schools and in our communities worldwide today?
It does. If we just think about the history of the human race, murals date back to 30 to 40,000 years, such as the caves of painting of Chauvet, Lascaux, Altimara in Spain, and in so many other places around the world. Since then, every civilization from ancient Egyptian through the Renaissance up to the modern times, they expressed themselves and taught people by painting images on the walls. They illustrated their belief, their history, their passion, their frustration, and even their knowledge. That was the way of sharing information and exposing beauty, exposing art to the masses. But now art has become the second violin of the orchestra of the second violin of in the orchestra of knowledge. It insists it isn't anymore. Sorry, it isn't anymore the leading instrument nowadays. Technology is evolving so fast, and we don't have time to adapt. And especially in art, it's kind of playing in the second violin, like I'm saying. If our artists, if you are an artist, that is great. You will develop many skills. But if you explore science and other disciplines, then you complete yourself, then you nurture yourself in so many different ways. Mathematician, philosopher of science, author and poet Jacob Bronowski said, nations in their great ages have not been great in art or science, but in art and science. So in the history of invention, many creative ideas from Galileo to Edison began from small sketches, from their imagination and curiosity. Art is part in our society because art is part of the human culture. But with globalization, it is underestimated as a viable science of creativity and identity. And this is what we need to change. Humankind has started drawing from the beginning of its existence. And at the end of civilization, it will probably be the last thing humans will do. So it is part of us, and it should keep, and we should not forget that art is like you said, the mother of sciences.
Yes, yes. And that's another reason to say that really art is very, very important, and art is playing a crucial role in education. And without art, education cannot survive and cannot progress. One thing is sure, if humankind today did not explore the different pillars of art, they couldn't establish all those scientific knowledge and medical knowledge. And that's why we're going to go to the sixth question now. Why is art considered a major catalyst to help our teachers or facilitators, as we call them now, because they will facilitate the inquiry and acquisition of knowledge and skills, and we don't teach anymore, which is much more difficult than teaching, and here we need art too. Why art is considered a major catalyst to help facilitators facilitate and not to teach within a STEAM project, real life-based learning environment?
Well, art can be used in so many fields of life. Even nowadays, cooperative executives are more and more using art for group seminars of solving problems and to create units of employees working, exploring together to be more productive, to be more engaged, and think especially outside the box. Uh, in the STEAM education, art is a major access point for guiding students in their inquiry, dialogue, and critical thinking to learning science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Education without art is like losing one of our human senses. It's like being blind from birth. We can adapt without sight, but you will never truly know what is a blue sky. Uh, at least with art, you can imagine it and you can dream it. Art facilitates students' ability to perform in the process of learning intuitively. Art helps create a link to other activities and offer the possibility of seeing things differently. By learning to access the right hemisphere of our brain as a conscious level, art is more about feelings than rules and facts. Many of us observe slight shifts in our state of mind while engaging in ordinary activities like walking and experiencing a sense of daydreaming or lose track of time. There are so many kinds of activities which produces a shift of consciousness like meditation, jogging, and of course art, music, writing, dancing, sculpting. It offers us a sixth sense, the sense that stops our brain from analytic thinking and makes us just feel. Those daydreamings are often the eureka moment of invention. I like another quote of Diego Rivera in that sense. Looking back upon my work today, I think the best work that I have done grew out of things deeply felt. So art is not rational, art is emotional, and it makes us feel in a way of thinking, feel in a way of being, feel in a way of sense and imagination.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Mr. Serge. And that's why we started in education, the STEM education, about 10, 15 years ago. STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And it seems by mistake they forgot art. And by time, they saw that without art, we cannot do STEM projects, we cannot integrate horizontally all those projects in one subject in one project. And oh yes, yes, we forgot. Yeah, the A, they made the magic A, art. We forgot it, and that's now we are now in STEAM education, the art, which is the major crucial role of the STEAM project education too. And that's another reason to say yes, art is crucial for education. Yes, art is there to help education. Art and education complement each other. One and the two of them, they cannot survive without two of them together. And that's why my seventh question would be, how can art, Mr. Serge, help schools reach the benchmark of horizontal integration that we have today, and all worldwide education is going to one subject called knowledge?
If we keep compartmenting everything in small boxes, dividing our human challenges like environment, humanitarian causes, and we are not thinking globally, this is the general problem of our society and even in the educational system. Art is essential for turning specific visual, perceptual knowledge. They are as essential as verbal, numerical, analytic ways of thinking. They are equals in the way. They do different tasks, but they are interconnected and must be interconnected and must be used more regularly in every field of education. Both thinking modes, science and art, are vital in extrapolation of meaning and problem solving. They are both as essential. Art education expand the field of knowledge, research, and practice. In this context, it is less about teaching art, but focusing on how to improve learning through the arts, how to transfer knowledge in art and through the arts to other disciplines, discovering and understanding human behavior through the various form of involvement in the art experiences. Those are the basis to know the what, the where, the who, and what we feel. We need to reevaluate our ways of doing things as often as we can to get the best form of thinking interconnected modes of knowledge. So we have to work at it, and it's not something that it's static. It has to be evolving, and we have to be experimenting as most as we can, like I just said. If we use art as a catalyst, we use art or use art as a magnifying glass, we use art as a source of enlightenment by using one of our most flexible tools in our toolbox. Maybe then we have the possibility of evolving in an equilibrium with our peers and nature. So it is a complete set of tools that we are supposed to be exposing to our students.
Yes.
In even on our day of life, even at our age.
Yes, I agree 100%. And that's another reason, because art creates a certain bridges between different subjects. It creates that environment in which you can see the whole world, the whole perspective, the whole knowledge and skills, not just mathematics, not just physics, not just English, not just French. The whole everything is there, because art is that bridge that creates and that environment of one subject called knowledge. And that's why my second question would be, how can art help our students, our future generation, that they will lead the world for a better tomorrow, find, because they keep asking this question, students, why you are teaching me all this? What are you teaching me? When I'm going to use it? Where I'm going to use it? And how am I going to use this knowledge and skills that you are facilitating for me in my real life? How can art help our students to reach that answers for the when, why, what, where, and how?
Would you ask again to close the microphone?
Yeah, please, everyone, make sure your microphones are all muted, please. Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead. Please. Make sure all your microphones are closed, please. Yes, go ahead, please. Go ahead, Mr.
Sorry.
Sorry.
The first thing, students and humans need to learn. We need to access art and our imagination to create extraordinary things. As the pyramid, or something as simple as a chair, we need to access every type of thinking in creating a better future. Art must be an essential part of our educational system. These learnable skills can provide access to part of our mind that works in a creative, intuitive thought. Students need to learn the fundamental skills of visual art, on how to put down on paper what they see in their mind. Once they have learned these components of creative imaginations of art and have integrated them in their life, then they can create forever in every field of life. Just like us, just as once we have learned how to walk, we now know how to walk for life, even jog or run, or even go up Everest if we want. Progress takes the form of practice, refinement of technique, and learning how to use these skills of art. That's the main thing. The basic skill of art are perceptual skills, perception of space, physical and emotional, perception of relationship between us, others, and objects, perception of light, shadows, and colors and shape, but most importantly, perception of the wider picture. We need to stop focusing on one thing when we should be absorbed and observing everything. Then it is easier to know the why, the what, the where, and the how. Then these questions becomes clearer, more real. It becomes more an everyday task. If we go back to the Renaissance, art was part of our life. It was everywhere, in the streets, in music, in the way they dress, the way they eat, and the way they live. So art must be integrated in our daily life. It has been proven that art education boosts self-esteem, self-images, self-confidence, and it helps us understand our place in the world. That is the where, the why. I do this or that. So these ideas will convince me of what I am doing. Am I in the right field? Do I feel at ease? Do I want to do something more? And these, by the arts, it's something that we feel that can bring these reflection on the surface. It is truly it is truly major that each child and adults should experience those perceptions through arts as creative, imaginative human beings. We should live art every day of our life, like doing create creative exercise for our well-being, as we do as physical exercise. This is the gift that will have will all that all we can. It's a gift that we all have. It's a gift that we can all share. The gift that we can give to one another for life.
Yes.
So it is truly important that we are able to make these differences of between the relationship of what's going on around us and what we can see and adapt with all these different tools, art and sciences.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you 100% again, Mr. Serge. And as we see here, we have another reason to say that art is a major pillar and plays a major role in education. Imagine, how can I explain the why to my students in geometry without art? How can I explain the when in history without art? How can I explain the what in inventions without art? How can we explain the where in general in all subjects without art? And that's why art, again, another reason, plays a major role in education. Another question here, Mr. Serge, what role art, and specifically mural art, played in reintegrating our teens and pre-teens within our society? You know, that wall that we have between us and teens and pre-teens. What role art, as the mural art, played in destroying that wall, in reintegrating our teens and pre-teens within our society, and in what ways it helped breaking that wall between them and the community?
Well, mural art brings knowledge outside of the typical way of learning. And we know that by these different skills that we learn in doing mural is history, proportion, composition, architectural design. It brings color to its environment, to the living space, to the collective, to all citizens of all ages and tourists alike. Mural art sometimes use specialized skills as contractors, architects, engineers, or urban designers. Mural art is often composed of teamwork, social skills. It involves problem solving from budget surveying, technical challenges, legal contracts, and security laws. Since there are no official schools for mural making, we learned in the old styles, like I said before, of mentors and apprentice, matching the apprentice with an experienced muralist by showing how it's made and by experimenting by doing, based on the talents and strength of the apprentice. In this fashion, they overcome their doubts and stimulate their self-confidence. According to many art researchers, mural art is an effective tool of social emancipation, skill development, and achievement of self-value. It offers new means of self-expression and personal identity. For members of many socially or racially divided communities, mural art has proven itself as an effective tool in establishing dialogue. So we are in the age of street art, and the younger generation are really productive and creative in the worldwide public art movement. That must be more recognized and more supported. Graffiti artists can now have an almost limitless boundary of opportunities in different style, technique, abilities, and support. I have seen mural projects around the world that have changed cities, changed communities, and touched so many individuals. Go on the net and look at the incredible civil mural project of Philadelphia and see what they have achieved in their neighborhoods that were so highly crime and reported and were inaccessible. By involving the communities in creating murals to illustrate who they are, and illustrate where they want to go. They have transformed and beautified their neighborhoods. By a simple act of painting art on a wall, they reconnected the citizens, the artists, old and young, to, to the wall, and the wall becomes a messenger. So when you go talk to these young adults and they believe that they can make a difference in their society by engaging in their communities and have fun doing it, they learn the importance of power of dialogue through art and knowledge. The wall becomes their canvas for the different type of art. They can dance on the wall, they can project light shows on the wall, they can create extraordinary art, piece of artwork outside the frame of traditional canvas. We are moving outward so that the world becomes our canvas. Mural art is often associated to social cause. Art becomes the catalyst, a link between so many races and cultures. And imagine is worth an image is worth 1,000 words. So a mural is worth 1,000 images. In creating mural art, we unite ourselves with a mutual respect in a creative process and share a common belief, our passion, skill, and knowledge. Another quote that I like about Ludwig van Beethoven: only art and science makes us expect the existence and hope that of a life on a higher level.
Yes.
So these murals are an opportunity. Street art nowadays, and the younger generation are using these walls as a giant message they can produce, but also they can use it as simply as creative art of self-expression of different ways of communicating when you don't feel in the part of really at the society at that time. That makes the difference. So, and that makes really the mural art as a form of catalyst. But mural art is only one part of all the art available to us and as adults and to the younger generation to be able to explore and use all these different tools that are available to the creation of art.
Yes, I agree again. Another reason why art is important, as you see here, for example, mural art, and we're seeing a lot of the creations here of different international artists in one village and all over the world. As you see on your screen, dear attendees, those are different creations of different artists of mural art worldwide. And in one village, which has special 100 miracle mural arts there, 100 of them in 1.6 kilometers in one village. And that's why, as we see here, the mural art in different neighborhoods, Mr. Serge, had eliminated the gang approach and created the new integrated approach of those teens and preteens with the community. And that's already a great achievement in education. And again, another reason to say art and education are two faces of the same coin. And art is a very crucial pillar for education. Now, my next question will be, the Global Mural Association has a specific mission and vision to serve education and art. Can you describe for us, please, the major goals for this association,
Absolutely. I would like to start just to put a little bit of history of where the Global Mural Association came from. The Global Mural Association was created in 1997 in a small town called Chaumanis on the Pacific coast of Canada by Dr. Carl Schultz, who has transformed that town in a small industrial town of paper mills and wood into a major tourist attraction. This town was kindly, getting as a ghost town. The big companies left that small town to go in the bigger towns. And that's an example that we can see all around the world almost. And by creating a simple mural and attracting some people, involving the community, and being able to create now more than 40 different murals in a small community, it has completely changed that community. Economically, touristically, with up to 40,000 tourists per year. Now there's a theater, now there's full of boutiques, small cafes, restaurants, shops, and everything. And they were able to embellish that little downtown and became the little city that could. And by that experience, Mr. Carr was able to export in many other cities and in different countries the same idea. The Global Mural Association is a nonprofit organization formed to recognize and promote the important relationship between mural art within communities as a social and economic development tool. We intend to raise public awareness to all disciplines of the arts, and in doing so, create a worldwide link to promote art, culture, skill, and knowledge. The organization emphasizes the beneficial value of partnership between the arts, business, tourism, and government sectors. Our desire is to elevate the abundant wealth of all forms of art, to offer visibility to artists, towns, mural art projects, and art events around the globe. The GMA meets every 2 years for a grand biannual conference called the Global Mural Conference. This event is hosted by a city member of GMA, and then the members of this association and guests from all over the world attend these happenings. GMA, as we call it, Global Mural Association, facilitates the town hosts to organize their own mural project and their own symposium based on their own culture. The objective of this event is to present new and effective ways of creating and marketing art projects through conferences, workshops, and art shows. Thus far, global mural conferences have been held in every second year since 1998 in Canada, New Zealand, USA, Scotland, Australia, and especially in 2022 in the amazing art and culture village of Yukon, China. It is a time where artists becomes, even for a brief moment, a united nation of the arts and color, a community of creativity open to the world. In those events, we are sharing tricks of the trade. We are gratifying intellect and creativity. That's hard to say. We create memories and we meet new and old friends, partners, collaborators from the four corners of the world. Our motto is to create murals to improve the quality of life, one community at a time. We go where the world lacks color. In this way, we are so proud to go to the Yukon village in 2022 and reach out to the community of artists of Yukon and China and around the world, creating art for the human race. That is our goal, to be able to share, to be able to push forward, to be able to express and to show to the rest of the world that art can make a difference in a city, in a neighborhood, and especially in individuals.
Yes, yes. And that's why One Village is always considered the art capital of the world, and at the same time an extra and co-curricular haven for our students. And that's why, another reason, the Global Mural Association, we thank this association because you're doing a great job, Mr. Serge, with all your colleagues to break that wall between the teens and pre-teens and the different challenges of life. So instead of them becoming gangs and destroying the community, they are helping in reviving the community and reaching the community, the villages, the cities, to a better tomorrow. And that's another reason too to say that art plays always a major role, a crucial role in education. And my last question will be for you today, Mr. Serge, and then we're going to take questions from the attendees. At the end of the day, can really education survive without art?
Well, by using a one-way directional way of thinking and working, yes, we can survive. But is that really what we want? Just survive? Or do we want to grow and evolve in a creative society at large? Through learning the arts, we can enhance our ability to think more creatively in so many other ways of our life. How far can we go with these skills depends on other traits, such as our willingness and our social curiosity to find our way of being engaged in society. That's the difference. We have to find ways, we have to be part of it, we have to be members of our society. And art is one of these ways. It's one of the highways to get there. Art is the missing link in the evolution of education. It is the missing piece of the puzzle called education. Art is the element that completes the wider picture of learning. By accessing human culture, value, and knowledge. So if we want to do more than survive, we need art in the streets. We need art in our schools, in our businesses, in our government, in science, and in all our daily lives. The potential is there. We have the capacity to do it. But first thing first, it is necessary for us, for all of us, to remember ourselves that Shakespeare, at some point, learned how to dream stories before writing. Beethoven learned to imagine music dancing in his mind. Vincent van Gogh learned how to see differently. So those are the different ways that we can experience our lives and experience different ways of learning and being able to evolve in equilibrium of a society for the human race to be able to evolve, not only survive.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. Sir, that's why we're asking those questions today, and the answer is very clear. We ask question number one: how can we answer the why, the how, the when, the where, and the what without art? How can we do real life-based learning without art? How can we integrate horizontally without art? How can we trust education for our future leaders without art? How can we nurture learner profile traits and prepare generations right for today and ready for tomorrow without art? How can we perceive, acquire knowledge, skills facilitated by the facilitator without art? How can we conduct STEAM inquiry-based education, learning, and facilitating without art? How can we break the wall between us and the students, the future generations, our future, without the help of art? How can we imagine a science-based STEAM project without art? How can we imagine we communicate without art, language, and literature? How can we become international-minded citizens without art? That's why we conclude today that art plays a major and crucial role, as we discussed in research, in education. And we are going to open now the questions for all our attendees. Before that, I just want to remind all of you, please, on our upcoming events and live discussions. On April 17, we are going to have a webinar, The Simplicity of Beyond Differentiated Classrooms, conducted by great educators, international educators, Mr. Fuad Sila and Ms. Aline Nassim. And on May 8, 2021, I have discussion with international educator, Mr. Luke Powers. We're going to discuss about the parent-school mutual partnership, which is a crucial area of education. On May 15, another webinar, the different layers of the multi-layered curriculum. On June 5, live discussion with the international educator, director of EdUnion, Mr. Sean Hughes, facilitating English through drama, which is the topic. And on June 19, another webinar, the 5 pillars of differentiation. As you see here, One Kwan Village always continue and will continue always its progress and its help and its input to help all our educators and artists worldwide to really help them serve and really serve the sacred mission of education. Because as we all know nowadays, education is the last stronghold between humankind and auto-destruction. If this stronghold is down, we are doomed. And that's why we are going to do our best, all of us, at One Village, always helping our educators to reach and our artists to reach their goals, to help our future generations to be right for today and ready for tomorrow.